Hi, I am doing a surprise live for anybody who happens to be on here and is available and wanting to watch, but otherwise this is just going to get uploaded after. But I was going to do this video and post it, and I thought, nah, I'm just going to jump on here right now and talk because I really feel like I want to talk about January 1st, the start of what I'm calling Diet January, which is I think should be the official title for the month of January. Hello, everybody who's joining, because this is the month that you are getting inundated with all of the diet messages. I mean, is anybody else just like so over it? It's so boring. I just like couldn't be more bored by the Diet January talk. It's like, okay, here we go again for the same thing over and over again. This year, it's like a client of mine sent me this message from, a friend who was trying to sell her this program of, I've got the code to like crack, I've got the code to like, what was it, like crack some unique code or what? I don't know, there's some code, some key or code to like the weight loss that you just haven't figured out before, but don't worry, Sharon from high school has it for you. And it's just like, it's so exhausting. And yet it makes so much sense why people would get pulled in to wanting to diet again. So I've talked about this a little bit this week, is that there's a couple really good reasons. Number one is that you're coming off the holidays where you've likely been out of a normal routine. Maybe you've traveled, maybe you've spent time with family, you've eaten differently, maybe you've eaten a lot, maybe some heavier foods or drinking, like whatever the case may be, you're just off. There's not a routine, you're not eating normally, you're not in your normal place, emotions might be heightened. So when you're feeling that way, you just want to feel a sense of stability and control again. So it's really easy and understandable for the mind to say, yeah, diet, that's going to do it because it comes with a plan. There's something you can follow. And you probably will feel better doing it because you're eating in a more sustained, regular way, even if it's like not enough calories or basic same foods over and over again, whatever it may be. There is a sense of normalcy and control and stability that comes with being on a diet. So that's part of the appeal of it. And it's also part of the appeal of wanting to do it right after the holidays. It can be this like, oh, I feel like I'm holding on to like a life raft where before I felt like I was floating around. So it makes a lot of sense why people would want to start a diet right after the holidays. But then we fall into the regular trap of it's not sustainable, because as much as the holidays isn't sustainable, like eating that way, being kind of out of routine, isn't something that you normally do, neither is following a really strict diet, because it doesn't leave any room for life to happen. And it also doesn't leave room for flexibility or freedom or desire to want to eat certain foods during a party, for example, or whatever it may be. So it's not sustainable for all the different reasons, restriction of calories, but also then of food, mental restriction, et cetera, you're going to fall off of it. And so as it goes, the joke is always like, don't go to the gym in January, wait until February when it's calmed down again. Okay, so what I want to talk about is that there's this kind of critical point when you decide that you want to start doing body acceptance work. There's like this fork in the road that you have to come to. Going back onto a diet is a road that like you've done it before, it's familiar. And so there's almost a comfort in that. And it's easy then to kind of see, yourself as the problem. Like, I just couldn't figure it out before. If I can just have more willpower, if maybe I just get it right this time, it's easy to kind of make yourself the problem. And when you do that, then there's always this sense of like, it's just me if I can fix me, instead of the diet itself being the problem. So no, it's something about like, we can kind of just think that if I could just change me, then everything will be better. But it ends up taking us away from the real issue, which is the fact that the diet itself like is the thing that's not working. But it feels safe, we know it, and it gives us the sense of like hope. But what ends up happening is, I kind of liken it to being on like it's a path, like it feels like we're going somewhere, but the path is in a circle. And we don't know that it's in a circle, but that's what happens, right? Like you feel like you're moving, you're walking, but then it just comes back again because the diet fails, like because your body's just doing its natural thing, which is it wants variety, it's seeking survival, so it's going to reject all of these restrictions. So then you start again, and it feels like you're moving, but you're just walking on this path. So going on this path of dieting and weight control and restriction is always going to be going in a circle. And you're moving, like you're doing something, and it feels like you're doing something, but you're not going anywhere. Like this is it for the rest of your life, like different varieties, different types, it's just going in a circle. And now the other path is the path of like what I call body acceptance. So it's obviously it's not dieting, it's deciding I'm not going to do it. But if you can imagine, like this path is kind of rocky. So what's the dieting path is well worn, right? Like that's a well beaten path. You know it, you know what to do. Somebody's going to tell you what to do. There's a lot of people on it. So there's a lot of people doing it. You have lots of friends if you're doing it. The body acceptance path, on the other hand, it's a little scarier. It's a bit rocky. It's the road less traveled. There's not as many people on it. You might see some people up ahead. It's a rougher terrain, but the key difference with it is that it goes somewhere, and it goes somewhere different. It goes to a place you haven't been before, new landscapes, new horizons. And when you get over and through the rocky parts, it does start to smooth out. But the beginning, it's like it's unknown territory. And these rocks, these obstacles are things that you have to move through. And it's challenging and it's hard. So super easy when you see that. You're like, you can kind of see in the difference, like it's like a beautiful horizon. Like you can see like, oh, this is like a peaceful land over here. Yes, I want to go there. But then you start down the path and you're like, oh crap, like this is hard. Like, and where's all the people? And so it's easy to run back and say, you know what? I know this dieting path over here. Like I've done this before. I know what maybe this time it will actually work. Like we think that we think it's kind of going somewhere, but it doesn't. It's really just going into a circle. It's like it's a circle. So super easy to want to go back. And you may have to go back in order to go forward. You may need to keep kind of going back a few times to kind of build up that, to see enough that it's not going anywhere. So, I mean, when I first started this, it took me a year before when I heard about intuitive eating, or it was even contemplating like stopping weight suppression, before I was able to finally do it. And it took me doing more diets. It took me like still weight suppressing. In fact, it took me like about to start one of the most restrictive diets. Like I think it's a sanctioned eating disorder, frankly. Like it was terrible. It took me signing up for this diet and like getting to this point where I was envisioning my life on this restrictive diet forever. And I was just like, I can't do it. Like this has to end. This can't be my life. But it took going to that point before I had enough kind of courage to go down that body acceptance path. And that path was not easy. Like it was hard. And I wanted to run back many times. And I did actually at one point for like 4 days. But then I was able to see after you stop dieting and you go back, you can see just how restrictive it is, like how much stress, how much worry, how much anxiety you're feeling all the time when you're dieting. That is so normal when you're dieting that you don't even realize that's what your life is like. You don't even notice it because it's just the way that it is. And it takes like leaving that to see it. But the thing is that leaving it's not easy. And so I'm really kind of setting it up for like, well, why the heck would you leave it if it's so hard? But as I said before, it's because the body acceptance path leads you somewhere new. When you get through the hard part, it starts to smooth out and you are on different horizons. Like you are in a new way of being with yourself and with the world that you've never been before. It's just that it's not a popular path right now. I am holding out hope and believing that in the future it will be the new way, but I'm just also not holding out hope that it will be like in my lifetime. It may take that long for that to change, but I really believe this is a new path. Now, what are these obstacles? These obstacles are, well, really, they're all the things you're hoping that dieting and weight loss will fix. It's all the things that we kind of avoid, we want to avoid when we go down the diet path. So for me personally, it was this feeling that I wasn't valuable, I wasn't good enough. Those were the key things, that if I gained weight, I just wouldn't be valuable or good enough as a person. And so it was weight loss was what made me think I was more valuable and good enough. But I'd had examples of like how that just wasn't true because I still didn't really feel good enough or valuable even when I was thin. So that couldn't have been the thing. But anyway, so when I gained weight though, really it was the external validation that I really yearned from, because I was like, well, if other people tell me I'm good enough and valuable, well, then I must be, because I didn't feel it within. And if I lose that, if people don't tell me that anymore, well, then I must not be good enough. And that's really the conundrum, or that's not the word I want to say, but the issue with really like how we're brought up to live in the societies. We're brought up to seek this external approval. We're brought up to look to everybody else to say, tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm good enough. What do I need to do? How do I need to change in order to be good enough? And that's when we get stuck. And that's when we go down these paths of like needing to think we needed to change our body in order to be good enough or loved by people. But it's a mistake. It's a misunderstanding. Now, we've kind of been trained to believe that with conditional love that we might have received, et cetera, et cetera. But I always look back to when I say, look at like a baby who comes into this world. You know, they are good enough just as they are. Like, we don't tell them, you need to change your body, or you need to cry differently, or you need to not do this in order for me to love you. No, we're like, oh my God, you're perfect. I love you. So it's like, at what point do we decide that this baby now is all of a sudden not good enough anymore? You know, like when do they have to change in order for them to be good enough again? Like, that's just a change in thinking. Like, we're naturally inherently good enough as we are when we're born into this world. So anyways, it really is within. So when we can look at those, see that, we can start to come and like, those are these obstacles then. Okay, so when I stop suppressing my weight and I gain weight, I'm going to lose that external validation. And that happened. Like, that happened for me. Well, what am I left with then? Right? Like, it's like, that's this place of like, what do I do? Who am I? Like, am I, like, we don't want to feel that, right? Like, we're afraid of that, which is why we're trying to change ourselves in the first place. But if we can see through that as a lie, that like, that's actually not true and start to debunk these beliefs and like dig into like, what are all these kind of lies or these misunderstandings that I've believed about myself that made me get to this place where I felt like I needed to change my body in order to feel good enough or in order to be valuable. Like, who did I believe? What external sources were telling me that? You know, these are some of the things, these are those obstacles that we start to go through. You know, and it's in a very emotional process. We may need to go through a grief process because it is a loss. Like there's this identity, this life that we think that we might have had or we did have that we could lose. But then we have to go back and say, but then what? There has to be a reason why we're doing it, because otherwise what's the point? Like why are we bothering going through these obstacles if it's not going to get us something? So it's like, what's the why? Well, the why is so that I can be free of needing to please everybody else around me, to feel that I need this external validation and approval. Like that's where the real freedom comes in, so that I can return to, and then the other, you know, part of it too, which is like, oh, so I'm not hungry all the time, so that I'm not exhausted all the time from working myself, like all of those things that can be part of the why. But to me, the why is really about, so we can regain autonomy over your life, over yourself, so that it's like, I can just live in a way that feels good to me without needing everybody else around me to agree with me or to validate me or to think, like, to tell me that I'm okay. Like, that's the real freedom. Then everything opens up after that. And it can almost be scary in a way too, because when we've been spending so much time fixated on our weight and our body size, it takes over our life. It becomes our life. Like, it is no coincidence that there are a lot of people who struggle with body image and weight loss who go into industries like dietetics, personal trainers, because it literally has to become your life. It's become your life. So now, if it's no longer your life, there can be a big hole there. And now there's a bigger, like, kind of existential crisis that can come up. Like, well, what do I do now? Like, what meaning do I have in my life? What's my purpose? What am I here to do? Oh, that's enough. That can be like an obstacle that to body acceptance. It can be like, oh, I'm just going to run back to dieting. Don't want to deal with that. So that is an emotional process to go through. But again, like, that is the greater why of, like, why bother doing body acceptance? So that we can have meaning back in our lives, so that we can actually do something that's fulfilling, because no child grows up, says, I came on earth, like, I was born here to keep my body small for the rest of my life. That is my purpose here. I don't believe that. I don't buy that for a second, that that's anybody's purpose. It's not. I really, truly, honestly believe that if we were deeply connected with ourselves and we weren't under this, like, crazy obsessive idea that thin was best, nobody would be caring about their weight. Really and truly, I really believe we don't have to think about our weight at all. Our weight will do its thing when we are actually just focused and connected to ourselves and what feels good. Like, our purpose is to connect with ourselves and just notice, like, what feels better for me, like what brings me more energy, what helps me feel better in my life. When we're focused on what it is that we want to do, like, that's it. So anyways, I'm literally just on here talking, like, spitting out thoughts that are coming to me right now about this topic, but it's coming back to the two paths, right? The path of body acceptance is a path that goes forward. It is a path that goes somewhere you haven't been before. It is the path that is more meaningful, that there's new terrain, where you grow and you evolve and you come closer to being comfortable and being really just back home to your true self. And then the path of dieting and weight suppression is a path that it seems like what I just kind of described of this like glorious future is there, but it's almost like this kind of mirage, and you just end up walking in this circle. Like you don't really evolve, you don't really grow, you're kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And this vision of happiness and perfection in this whole life is just a mirage that keeps moving, because you're requiring your body to be a certain way in order to get that. And if your body doesn't naturally go that way, then you will forever be fighting it and forever be disconnecting from yourself and forever be putting your energy and time and attention on this one thing and just chasing it in this circle. So that's the biggest decision on this path, is like dieting and the weight loss, which and it is a circle. Body acceptance, which is a path that moves you forward but is tough in the beginning. It's got the rocks. There's not a lot of people on it, but it smooths out and it gets you somewhere. Like you grow and you move forward. And that growth affects everything else in your life. Like it's not just your weight. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna like feel good and happy and okay. Like maybe, but you'll all of a sudden be like, well, where else in my life am I like following other people's rules, or like accepting less than from other people? Anyways, it comes out into other areas of your life because you've changed now. You're connected to yourself. You're having your inner self be your guide rather than everybody else. And yes, it's like, we want to be around people who accept us and validate us, but those people are people who validate you in your core, not people who just validate you because of your image and appearance. Like those people will leave, and you want them to leave when you've gained weight or you've changed your appearance. You don't want the people to stick around who are like, oh, I'm only going to validate you if you're thin. Let them go. When you do, it opens space to let the people in who see you for you. Because the one thing that is always going to change in your life and our lives is our bodies. And if we constantly think that has to be the thing that needs to stay a certain way or look a certain way in order to feel okay, then we're trapped by it. We're not free. So body acceptance is really a path of evolvement, and it's not the easy path. Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning. If it was, everybody would be doing it. But no, everybody is instead on the dieting path. And it's not to say there is no shame in people who are doing that, because hey, I did it for over a decade. I get why people are doing it. I don't judge it. I don't even think it's wrong. I don't even think it's bad. Like, everybody is doing what they feel they are capable of doing or what they need to do at that time. But if there's that moment where it's like, I just want something different. I just really don't want this to be my life anymore. I just don't want it to be my life, and I don't want to hate myself anymore. I don't want to hate my body anymore. I want something different. I don't want to be so affected by comments from other people and what they say. I just want to be free of that. And the body acceptance path is the path that you can go down to get that. But it's not quick. It's not quick. Again, it's like terrible sales pitch, right? This is why everybody's dieting, because it's like 21 days and like happy forever. No. This is not a quick fix. This is the real work, but it's the real work, and it's the work that lasts because it's the real work. It's not on the surface. It's internal work. It's deeper work. And but it's the work of freedom, and it is the work of growth, and it is the work of evolvement. So that is my New Year's message. If you watched it all the way here, thank you. And I would love to hear your comments if there's anything that you're specifically struggling with in that challenge. And this is why I'm here to do one-on-one coaching work, because it's personal, it's tough, and you need support through it. I mean, I don't know if you, like, I can't say that for you, but I sure did. And I don't really know many other people who have that to do it on their own, because it's tough. And most people are by themselves. Like, most people are the only person they know who is doing this work. So I'm telling you, that's why I'm here, to help guide you through those obstacles, to help you keep going on that path. Not to get you all the way to the end, because like I said, this takes a long time, but to really get you started, to move you through those bigger obstacles, so you have the tools and the practice and the awareness to know and to help you keep going. But like, let's get the big ones out of the way first, and then to help you keep going on this path.